Hello and welcome. My name is Dimitar Nikolov and I'm going to give you a tutorial on how to use the Linux command line to get your environment set up for work in the class. Before we begin, I want to point out that if you go on the class website, there is a lessons section, and in here there are some useful reference materials that you should look at. Under Linux, there is the Linux shell and using SSH keys lessons, and these have nice summaries of useful commands that we'll be going through in these videos. Also, under programming, there are lessons on Git and GitHub, and we're not going to do too much with Git in this tutorial, but I'm going to show you how to set up your SSH key, clone the repository, and make the website. So there's going to be some useful stuff in here too. I want to also mention that I'm assuming for this tutorial you have access to a Unix-like command line. If you are running Mac OS X, you already have that. You just need to start the terminal application. If you're using Windows, we recommend that you install VirtualBox and put Ubuntu Linux on it. And if you haven't done that already, under lectures on the website, you can go to the systems track, and there are two videos here on how to set up VirtualBox and Ubuntu on it. There is one important thing that you should do differently from what is shown in these videos. In the videos, you're shown how to create a virtual disk that is 8 gigabytes. This is actually not going to be enough for everything that you're going to put in the VM. So when you set up your VM, if that's the route you decide to go, and you set up your virtual disk, set it up for at least 16 gigabytes or preferably 20. And then you should be all set to start the tutorial. So next I'm going to start my virtual machine and we're going to look at the Linux command line. This is my virtual machine. It's a fresh install of Ubuntu Linux, so if you just set up your virtual machine, everything will look more or less the same. What I'm going to do now is go to the Start button and type terminal and launch the command line terminal here. And if you have a VirtualBox and Ubuntu, your terminal will look a little different because I've already made some changes to the look and feel. So if you right click, go to Profiles and then Preferences, you can change things like the font size, the colors, and other things of the terminal. Okay, so here I'm in my home directory. I know this because of the tilde symbol over here. This is an alias for the home directory. And I can also put in pwd for print working directory, and it tells me I'm in home Dimitar. So what I'm going to do here is set up a few directories where I'm going to put my work. So the first thing I want to do is look at what directories are already here, and I can do this with the ls command. I can also use lsl to display one file per line, and I can do ls-lh to display one file per line and for the sizes to be in human readable format. So in this case, for example, 4 kilobytes instead of 4096 bytes. So I'm going to do mkdir here, and I'm going to create a GitHub directory. So I'm going to keep all of my projects that I cloned from GitHub here. And then I'm going to change into that directory. So I'm going to do cd github, change directory GitHub, and then I'm going to make another directory called Cloud Mesh for my work with the class repositories like this. And I can see the directory I created with the ls command. Now, before I do any cloning from GitHub, there is something else I need to do. I need to set up my SSH key, so that's what we're going to do next. What I need to do is use the SSH key gen command. So it's SSH-key gen, and I need to specify what type of key I want to create. So I'll be specifying the encryption algorithm to be used. We're going to use RSA, and I'm also going to specify a comment like this and put in my email address just to keep track of my key easier. So when I do that, the first thing I will need to do is provide a location where the private key is going to be placed. So this is just going to be one file, and by default it gets placed into my home directory and then .ssh, and so the name of the file is id_rsa. I'm fine with that, so I'm just going to press enter, and then I need to enter a passphrase. So I'm going to do that. Please choose a good passphrase. Definitely don't leave this blank. And once you select the passphrase, your keys have been generated. And let's go into this .ssh folder and see what's there now. Now, let's first go to the home directory like this. So cd tilde for cd home Demeter, the two are equivalent. Now if I do ls lh here, I don't see a .ssh directory, and the reason is that if you have a period in front of the name of a file in Linux, that means that the file is hidden, so it won't be shown by default by programs such as ls. In order to see such files, I need to add the a argument to be shown all files. And so here you can see now there's the SSH, and there's actually quite a few other files that are hidden. So I'm going to go into SSH, and I see two files. One is my public key. This is id_rsa.pub, and the other is the private key. And I can even see what's inside the file. So the cat command just lets me display the contents of a file. So I'm going to do that with the public key, and this is what it looks like. So when I need to upload this key to GitHub, basically what I need to do is take this string and copy it to a particular place in github.com. So you will see how that works. And you can look at the private key as well, just to see what it looks like here. Okay, so from here I'm going to open my browser and go to github.com. So once I'm logged in, I need to go to my settings here, and then to SSH and GPG keys. And you'll see that I already have some keys here, so I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to call it i524 Ubuntu VM, and over here is where I need to copy and paste my key. So we'll do cat id_rsa.pub and copy everything. So make sure that you copy from the very beginning, where it starts with SSH RSA, to the very end where you have an email address. And you can copy either by right-clicking on this selection and saying copy, or you can select and then press Ctrl-Shift-C on the keyboard. And I'm going to paste my key here. And then I'm going to click Add. And I'm going to authenticate. And this is all I need to do. So next, I will be able to use these SSH keys that I just created to clone the Cloud Mesh classes repository. So I'm going to go back into the GitHub and then Cloud Mesh repository. This is where I'm going to do my clone. And in my browser, I need to get the address for the repository. So on my home page, I can go to Cloud Mesh classes. And remember that the way that we do this is we first fork Cloud Mesh classes. And what this does is it copies this repository into your GitHub account. So if I click it here, I'm basically going to be taken to my fork that I've already created. If you haven't forked yet, the screen is going to look a little differently, but this is what you're going to see at the end. So this shows me that this is my GitHub user, and /classes is the repository that I just forked. And this is a fork from Cloud Mesh /classes. So to clone this, I need to go to this green button and copy the string that appears here. But before I do that, I need to, instead of clone with HTTPS, I need to select use SSH. And so I'm going to copy that string, go back to the command line, and I'm going to say git clone, and then I'm going to paste the address. And you can do that with either with Ctrl-Shift-V, or you can right click and say paste. And okay, so in the virtual machine, by default, Git isn't installed. So in order to install it, you basically need to do what you're told here. You're going to use the apt utility to install Git. So I'm going to write sudo apt install git. Sudo is a command in Linux that allows you to act as the root user. So this is the master administrator user, and this will allow you to install software to various system directories. So in order to install most software, we need to have root access, and sudo allows us to get that access only for executing this command. So the command is really apt install git. Apt is the Ubuntu package manager, and we're telling it that we want to install the git package. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to enter my account password, and this is going to do the installation for Git. And so the only thing that I need to do in the process is agree to the package being installed. So I'm going to finish installing this, and once this is done, I can reissue the git command. So what you can do is use the arrow keys. So up arrow brings up the most recent command. So I'm going to keep pressing up arrow until I get my clone command, and I'm going to execute it. Now I need to tell Git that I want to use my SSH key, so I'm going to say yes here. And I need to enter the passphrase here that I set up my private public key pair with. So I'm going to put that in and unlock. And what this does is it clones the entire class repository, and so this might take a little bit of time, and after it's done we're going to look at some of the files that are going to be useful for you. I've cloned my repository, so if I do ls, I can see the new classes folder, and this is where all the files for the course website are. Now, the way that the website works is it uses a language called restructured format, which gets compiled into HTML, and that's how we build the website. So if you look inside this docs directory and then the source directory inside that, you'll see index.rst, and we can also look at the i524 directory there, and we see the technologies page, technologies.rst, the lectures page, and all the other pages that are part of the website. So we need to compile these RST files into HTML, and the way that this works is inside the base classes directory there is a makefile, and that makefile basically has the commands for building the site. So in theory we can just type make and it will compile everything and generate the HTML. Right now my environment isn't yet set up with the necessary libraries, so I need to do that first. And what I need to do is install virtualenv. Now before I do that, I need to install a package called pip. Pip is a package manager for Python. It allows you to install different modules, different Python modules. And so this is not installed on my Ubuntu, so I'm going to install it using this command. It's the same idea of using the apt package manager as before when we installed Git. So I'm going to install pip, and this is going to take some time. Just remember, apt is the package manager for Ubuntu and pip is the module manager for Python. So we're now installing pip. Once the installation is done, we can then use pip to install the virtualenv Python module. So I'm going to do sudo pip install virtualenv. Virtualenv gets installed, and now I can use virtualenv to set up a Python installation that is only going to be used for the project. And the reason that we want to do that is we don't want to compromise the built-in Python installation that comes with Ubuntu. For the class we're going to be installing some modules, and we just don't want to mix the default Ubuntu installation with everything that we need for the course. It's better to keep them separate so we don't affect other software on Ubuntu that uses the default Python. So now that I've installed virtualenv, what I need to do is execute virtualenv and give a directory. So I'm just going to specify env in my home directory, and this is going to set up a whole new Python installation here. So now if I do LSH and to view the contents of my home directory, I now see this env, and if I look inside there, I'm gonna see the installation files. In particular, there's a bin folder that has the Python executable and virtualenv installs pip. So this is an entirely separate installation of Python. And to make sure that I use that installation, I need to activate it. So the Python that is currently active is the default system Python. So I can put in which Python here, and it tells me the path to the Python executable. This is the system Python. To activate the Python that I just installed, I need to type source, and then navigate to env, bin, activate. Keep in mind that when you're inputting these paths, you can always press the tab key for autocomplete. This makes things a lot faster. So what this is going to do is it's simply going to run the activate script in that bin folder. And this will activate that Python installation. You can tell that by this env string here. So now if I say which Python, it tells me that the Python executable I'm using is the one in my env folder. It's an entirely separate Python installation. I need to install some modules for Python to make sure that the website will work. And this list of modules that are needed by the website are in the requirements file. So I can view the requirements using the less command. Before we used cat, so we can do cat requirements. So this works just fine. And so the way that I would use this file is I will say pip install, and if you check which pip executable is being used, again it's the one in env. So I'm going to say pip install requirements and the name of my requirements file here. And what that is going to do is simply install all the modules that were listed in that text file. These are all the modules needed for compiling the website. This is going to take some time, but after everything is done, I will be able to issue the make command and compile the website. Okay, so we've installed all the Python dependencies, and now we can try and build the website. So I'm going to type make again, and you're going to see that everything is going to get built. And this might take a while, especially the first time you do it. You might see some warnings like these, but the process should be successful, and you should see a message at the end telling you that the HTML has been generated, like this one, build finished. And here's where the HTML pages are. So from here, you can type make view. And what this is going to do is open a browser window and display the website. You can see in the URL bar that we're viewing a local file. You need to do this every time you make any changes to the website. You need to make everything again and open it in the browser or refresh it and make sure that you didn't introduce any errors. And only after you've done that, you should push your changes and generate a pull request. So the last thing that we want to do here is look at how make works. because there is some other useful things you can do with it. If I view the files in my classes directory, I will see a Makefile here. This is the file that the make command uses to know what to do. So we can look at this file now. Now, before you saw how to use the cat command to view the contents of the file, and we can do that here, but this time it's less useful because this is a longer file, so I have to scroll up and down with the mouse. Instead, I can use less and then Makefile, and less opens the file, shows me the very beginning of it, and then it lets me use the arrow keys to explore it and go up and down. And so when I'm done, I can press the Q key and exit. So let's look at the file again. So here you see some variable definitions based on what the operating system is, and down here you see a bunch of targets. So each target tells the Makefile tells make to do something else. So for example, the doc target says change into the docs directory and then issue this command. So it's another make command. And there are other targets like all PDF and so on. Now, when I executed make, I didn't specify a target, so I didn't say something like make HTML. I just said make, and in that case, the very first target gets executed by default. So in this case, it's docs. So let's look at what this does. So if we're executing another make in the docs file, there should be a make file there, and there is indeed. So let's take a look at this. So there are again some variable definitions here, and I'm going to look at the targets and scroll down all the way to the HTML target. And you can see here that we're basically issuing a build command and specifying where to put the HTML and displaying a message at the end. So you can explore these Makefiles to see what other targets are available. I want to point out one particular target in the main Makefile, so the one in the classes directory. You can do make PDF, and what this does is it generates a PDF of the whole class website. So you can use that to either view the content of the website offline or print it out or something like that. Now, if you type make PDF right now, your command isn't going to work because you don't have a LaTeX environment installed. And the way you can install it in Ubuntu is using the apt package manager that you saw before. So I need to say sudo to switch to admin privileges, apt install, and the name of the package you want to install is techlive-full. So go ahead and install that if you're on Ubuntu. If you're on macOS, you can take a look at homework 1. We have some suggestions there about what LaTeX environment you can use in macOS. I'm not actually going to execute this because I already have an installation going. So once my install of TechLive is done, we can come back here and look at the generation of the PDF. Okay, my TechLive installation is done, so I can go ahead and generate the PDF of the website now. I just need to put in make PDF here, and this is once again going to compile the whole website, and it's going to generate PDF document with everything in it. And you can see that some of the messages here are now different from what you saw before, because this is showing you the LaTeX output from generating the PDF. This is gonna take some time, and at the end it tells you where to find the PDF, and you actually don't need to go to that directory. You can just put in make PDF view, and that will open the PDF document in your PDF viewer. And so please use these notes. Okay, this is all we wanted to cover. I want to remind you that on the course webpage, under the Lessons tab, under Linux, you can find a summary of the commands that we executed here. So you can go to Linux shell or using SSH keys, and you can also go to under programming, Git and GitHub. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.